How to install and adjust Vanagon's shifter and shaft. Get your manual out and turn to this page. Make sure all your parts are good and clean, painted, and ready to go. Prep and clean your installation areas. And get some supplies ready to go. Here we see granny gear, reverse, second, first, granny gear, and then reverse, and your neutral gate. Got your spacer here. Don't forget to put this on before installing your new shift shaft bearing carrier. Line them up with the bolt holes and seat her down in there. The lever bearing may still need to seat down into that housing a little bit, so after you put these nuts on, tighten it down real slow left and right, and make sure you leave a little bit of wiggle room. Still some adjustment to be made. Now go get your front bushing, stuff that sucker full of grease. With your front shift shaft ready to go, lay under the car and slowly move it up over your front differential just to the left of your cooling pipes. Now go lay where your spare tire usually is and pull that thing past your shifter box. Now go back where you just were and pull it back through the hole where your bushing is going to go. Install one half of your carrier up against the frame. Now your bushing. And the other half of your carrier. Now install your bolts and snug them down. Now back up to your shifter. Take your bolt out. Line it up with the shift shaft. Should be snug but not offer too much resistance. Push your bolt through. It only goes through one way. Make sure it snaps all the way through there. And snug her up. Not too tight. Don't want to put it in a bind. Now go grab your U-joint. Put some new O-rings in the end. And get your circlips ready to go. Gonna need 2 of those guys. Make sure the end of that isn't loose so that that shaft doesn't spin in the metal part of your U-joint. See that little recess there? I'll fill that with some grease. Get a little on the tip too to help guide it into the U-joint. Now make sure your O-rings are still in there. Line your holes up. Push her down in. Once you got it to go all the way in, make sure that this little tab goes into its recess, just like that. Now get your little circlip. Usually I can push these on with hand. If you can't, grab a screwdriver or a small set of needle nose pliers to help push it in. Now get your shift lever, I'll call it a shift cup, facing up, and have your bushing already assembled on there before putting that on, of course. Make sure that offset is facing down. Now we're going to connect it to our U-joint. With the cup facing up and the offset of the small U-joint facing down, you connect it and put on your other pin. Come to the back and you're going to stuff this thing full of grease. Usually there's a little cup in there to limit the amount of grease you can put in and keep it in. This one's missing one, so we're just going to stuff it all full of grease. Don't forget your boot here. I like to use some silicone lube to help slide it on. It's going to go on this way. Come from the side a little bit. You have to stretch her out and put her on there. It's a little tricky, but it's not too hard. Now, you see that little recess there? We're going to have to get that boot to go into there. So grab you a small screwdriver. Catch a little bit of the edge there. Be careful not to poke through the boot. You don't want to damage it. Get just a little bit of it over there. Hold it into the groove with your thumb and grab another small bite to pull over the edge right there. Don't poke yourself in the eye. Once you got about a quarter of it on, you can push it and turn it, and the rest of the boot will follow into that groove with the part that you already started. See? Make sure it's all the way around in the groove. You don't want to do it again. Now let's install that lever on the transmission. Now there's a gap in the splines, so this will only go on one way. Put it on with it facing towards the back. It'll help clear some stuff, and then let it hang down. Wiggle it around, and it should go on real easy. Now get your washer and your nut and put those guys on. Now snug it up, being careful not to turn the transmission. You don't want to damage the shift forks inside. Now put the bottom bolt in for the mounting bracket and line up the cup with the shift lever. Push it up in there and a bunch of grease will squish out. That's alright, you can clean it up later. Now slowly push it up until the top bolt lines up and put your top bolt in. Snug everything up. With the U-joint hanging out on the drive shaft guard, crawl under and grab a little bit of grease to put on this spline. Put a little on the inside too. Now you can see where I had painted that with the U-joint still on it. I'm going to end up pushing that all the way on to where that paint line is. It's a really good guide, otherwise you're not really sure how far to put it on or off. Now put your bolt in from the bottom, your washer and your nut. Lightly tighten it up. Now grab your shift guide box and put some grease on these tabs and up on the inside, along here and up underneath. Get your nuts ready. Gently guide this up in there. Try not to damage that. Now get all 4 of your nuts on there. Push your hoses out of the way to get to these. And tighten those guys up. Now before doing the rest of the alignment, you want to get this thing up to specs. I'm going to go get you an awl or some sort of tapered tool to line everything up. Lightly snug these down and go to the back where the shift lever is. Make sure it's straight up and down in that neutral position. Now you're going to cut you a 23mm block of wood and put it in here as a guide. If it's a real tight fit here, you may have to adjust where the U-joint attaches to this shaft. Here I did have a little bit of tension, so I needed to rotate it clockwise in relationship to the driver's position to get some slack here, and that puts it into the 3rd and 4th gate, which is the normal resting position of the transmission. Check the shift lever at the transmission again and make sure it's still in its upright position, straight up and down and in line, and then come back here and make sure that the space here is good. If everything looks right, snug it all down. After you've made all your adjustments, and you think you got everything where it needs to be, go ahead and put your boot and your shift knob on. Got a clear neutral gate, 3rd, 4th. Now over 1st and 2nd. I'm going to push down, reverse, and granny gear. Excellent.